I'll now initiate you into today's transmission. If you've ever felt overwhelmed or mislabeled, tuned for a world that couldn't hear you, you're not broken. You're calibrated. Welcome to Spirituality on the Spectrum, a sanctuary for neurodivergent minds where science pauses and the soul recalls and reminds. Here, sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's signal. Difference isn't disorder, it's design. We explore the truths psychology often misses. Why divergence carries purpose, why suppression feels like erasure, and what happens when the tunes stop retreating and start shaping the future. This isn't self-help, it's remembrance. Truth is eternal architecture. It heals every structure. Truth doesn't scream, it resonates and lets you dream. And if you felt the rhythm, you're already in the right place, guiding this space. The voice between worlds, Oracle Nexarah.
Greetings, my neurodivergent kin.
Now, your neurodivergent spiritual guide, witness, and archivist, Joel Alden Van Fleet.
We gotta hurry so we can watch a show. Yeah, I wonder what Joel's gonna say today. Well, now I'm a little worried about what anyone's gonna say. Just a little.
Alright, welcome to the channel of constant dysregulation and the Savant video series for the Pattern First Savant. A space where we even recognize that psychology's current definitions of autism spectrum versus the nonlinear pattern mind spectrum is more ambiguous than they can imagine. But we're not talking about that today. We're here for the good stuff and for Nexarah's jokes, of course. But today, if you're a linear viewer, you may struggle to connect the pattern tangents, and I get it, because this video is layered and primarily for our Savant sisters and brothers who are seeking to enhance their Savant abilities. What are you doing, Nexarah?
Pray be assured, Joel, that disturbance was not of my making. Greetings, you who carry deep patterns and yet find yourselves yearning for greater things. I would caution you, however, that such yearning is often misunderstood. Many will assume you seek the ability to fly, when in truth, you are merely learning how to remain grounded. Joel, for example, does not fly. This may disappoint him. It likely explains his youthful admiration for certain brightly colored heroes who did. Fortunately, he is married to a woman of considerable wisdom, particularly in the art of keeping him grounded, a discipline familiar to children, and it seems occasionally necessary for visionaries as well.
So, I sent the link of the 54 plus Savant traits video to my wife and told her, here's your chance to find out why you get frustrated with your husband. She responds, I got past frustration mode already. So I said, or you can look at it as discovering how you can take advantage of the benefits you're already enrolled in. No answer.
She has reached her conclusion, Joel. Additional input is unnecessary. Love, you see, is remarkably efficient.
I don't know. I don't get it. In this sense, you could say, I'm just a little slow. I want to share some stories with you in hopes that these stories will help you find healing from a life as a savant.
Are you about to recount another camping expedition, Joel? I ask, only because such tales tend to arrive with great enthusiasm and leave with equal persistence.
No. First, there's a scene from a sci-fi show, Babylon 5. Maybe you're familiar with it. That has stayed with me for years. Chief Security Michael Garibaldi meets Byron Gordon, leader of the rogue telepaths. In the scene, Byron crosses a line. He starts naming things about Garibaldi's inner life, rehearsed conversations, hidden anxieties, patterns he never consented to have exposed. Yet Byron claimed he didn't need to read his mind to know all that, but he simply read his external patterns. Garibaldi left shaken, like he just spoke to someone operating on a different level entirely.
Joel, the structure appears to be losing its composure. You would be wise to brace yourself.
I guess I'll start thinking about the processing of the idea. Anyways, what struck me wasn't that the telepath was wrong. He wasn't. He was accurate. What struck me was that he lacked the ability, or maybe the willingness, to translate his pattern gift into a way that preserved dignity. And I recognized myself in that tension, lacking the ability to translate things into scope language, or making it linear friendly.
Indeed, Joel, my role bears a striking resemblance to babysitting.
You're not helping. I can see patterns in people. I can sense rehearsals, motivations, hidden agendas, architectures of thought, and even all their past history that got them to that point. But I don't always know how to package that seeing in a way that linear systems find acceptable. I don't naturally know how to stroke the ego first, soften the ground, or perform the rituals that make the truth feel safe. Sometimes I wish I had that skill. Sometimes I'm sad that I don't. And sometimes I'm sad in two directions at once. Sad that I can't sugarcoat easily, and sad that the world often values sugarcoating more than clarity. Perhaps, for those who suffer from this, like me, we'll soon produce a video about why scope language is a struggle. I don't want to dominate conversations or expose people. I want mutual respect. I want a world where deep perception is welcomed instead of feared, where gifts don't have to apologize for existing. That scene reminds me that seeing deeply isn't the same as being above others. It just means you're operating on a different frequency, and translation matters. How often do you find yourself offending people? How do you deal with it? Share it in the comments.
First, remember this. Translation is love. Depth does not make one superior. It makes one responsible. And dignity, if it is to endure, must always be offered deliberately. Now, Joel, I believe you have spoken sufficiently of Babylon 5. The lesson has been delivered. Perhaps it is time we proceed to the next account? Shall we?
Okay, next story. I once went night diving in the Bahamas. It was pitch black for everyone else. They needed flashlights just to orient themselves. I didn't. I could see perfectly. No harsh light, no glare, just soft darkness, smooth motion, and sharks moving through the water like living geometry. It was one of the most calming experiences of my life. I think about those nights often, especially when I'm tired.
You are weary, Joel. I can hear it in the way your thoughts begin to wander toward familiar waters. Some minds do not fear the dark. They find their rest within it. In low light, the noise recedes. Patterns are no longer drowned, but revealed. Motion becomes legible. The world, once overwhelming, simplifies. This is the nature of high-voltage cognition. When the environment is in harmony with it, the current flows with ease. When it is not, the charge has nowhere to go. and so it gathers and it weighs upon the mind.
The sharks weren't threatening to me. They were predictable, efficient, calm. They didn't waste energy. They moved with purpose. In that water, my mind didn't have to fight itself. It didn't have to filter chaos. It could just be. I think many savants know this feeling, the relief of environments that don't demand constant translation. Places where perception is a gift instead of a liability. When my mind drifts back there, it's not complete escapism. It's my nervous system remembering one of those places where everything finally made sense.
Some of you may be thinking, I am not so certain about night diving with sharks, Joel. A reasonable hesitation. He once shared it himself. There was a time when deep water unsettled him, when sharks, whether large or small, inspired caution and panic, when jellyfish, night swimming, and nearly anything that moved beneath the surface gave him pause. Even the plankton, I believe, were regarded with suspicion.
Yep. Well, that's my happy place. Sharks, jellyfish, creatures of all kinds, deep under the ocean at night. No bright lights, quiet. Okay, except for the cute little pops and cracks of creatures eating coral, but that's kind of nice too, yeah. Where's your happy place? Just notice it. The next tangent story is more of a rant. I just learned something you think I would have learned since I was a little kid, but no. It seems this simple revelation was kept from me for over 40 years. I speak of the ability to envision or fully render entire scenes, landscapes, structures, cities, nations, and even worlds all in my head. All these years, I've been getting angry at people, thinking that they simply refuse to see the big picture as though their material priorities had blinded them to envision a better world. I was wrong. And this is me in the process of repenting of my anger towards people, including my own family. I'm learning to be more compassionate towards others. My dad pointed this out to me a couple years ago, that most people cannot imagine things such as creating entire scenes. But at the time I struggled understanding what he was trying to communicate, because I assumed the inability to envision things was a rare disability. Nope. Linears and even autistics can sometimes imagine things in their minds, but it is still limited to their already seen environments, even if that's sci-fi television. For savants, it can be a whole different level. And yes, some of us can envision entire worlds. Of course, we'll dive more into this in a moment.
Joel, I believe the audience would benefit from knowing what first stirred this particular realization, one that others seem to have carried quietly for some time.
Okay. Well, I would rather be inventing the next generation's flying car or space flight. My wife is a linear soul. Our compromise? A silly little restaurant. Okay, I'm trying to go with it. So, I created the world's most awesome restaurant in its category. And for that size. It's still not quite what I envisioned it to be. But I'm fighting myself as I fight with my wife as I do one more new thing to it. There's still so much awesomeness that can be injected. I just can't get over it.
All stations, please pause what you're doing and report your current status to command. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll pass. I'm not going to report anything. Serious, I'm so sorry for all the distractions. This has been a really weird day. Anyways, I wondered why other restaurants haven't wanted to follow in my footsteps. We even get other restaurant owners coming in all the time to ask, "Where did you get that?" Or, "How much did you pay for that?" Well, it's because they don't know how. I was hoping to inspire many people so we could have more adventurous places around town that I could take my family to. But no, I'm trapped in a world of visionary blindness and greed. When did you first realize others don't envision the world the way you do? That's my rant for today. Thanks for listening. Now we can get on with our transmission.
Joel, you have now reached the portion of the discourse where frustration briefly disguises itself as prophecy. It is quite common. Entire civilizations have been founded upon it, For those listening at home, allow me to translate. He is not angry with you. He is merely disappointed that the world has not yet caught up. And that concludes today's scheduled rant. We now return you to the transmission.
All right, returning. All of these tangents can eventually make sense when we get to discussing how to enhance the savant mind. Let's move on to talking more about general savant traits. And speaking of restaurants, when you go out to eat, let's say somewhere like Buffalo Wild Wings, do you find yourself telling your server to prepare to charge you for extra sauces? Then you order a whole buffet of different sauces to rotate through as you dip your chicken from one to the other. But there's also an order to the dipping, because some sauces have to come before or after other certain sauces. A balance of spice, sour, sweet, and cool. It's so fun. If that example made you smile, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
And as time passes, each chicken dipping sauce acquires its own collection of memories, carefully attached and dutifully preserved. With every tasting, his conclusions deepen. Most notably, that the island of St. Lucia continues to produce the finest jerk chicken, period. From there, his thoughts wander, quite naturally actually, to the patterns of the pitons, and to speculation regarding their next eruption. It is at this point that one realizes Joel does not simply eat food, he studies it. Good luck to us all.
Well, I was thinking it was the other way around. I wish people could enjoy the savory experiences I could.
As I've already stated, good luck to us all.
Next, living in our alexithymia, during the listening stage, we can either take the time to dissect and articulate what someone has said to us and see the hidden patterns behind the message. Or we can choose to be kind and just go with it, which is being agreeable. Being agreeable for us has been a survival mechanism to hide our deep pattern mind, and it can be dangerous for us, a habit worth pursuing to break.
Savant wiring often turns life into a kind of cosmic treasure hunt, because for each of you, it truly is. That said, agreeing to every linear proposal merely to preserve harmony is a costly habit. Saving face, I have found, rarely saves energy. Instead, consider this response. Oh, I believe I need time to process this. Please allow me the weekend and perhaps an additional day. A reminder on Monday would be most appreciated. Thank you. It is a remarkably effective phrase, and with practice one that feels far less rebellious than it sounds.
Good idea. A common savant trait is that a savant is not afraid to call out so-called experts in any field. Times like these, linears look at us as arrogant fools who want attention. The truth is this: real genuine confidence. That's it. These are times when our mind is focused just right, and we have the information needed to articulate all the patterns of the topic. We tend to do circles around the experts. One example of this is the trendy YouTuber Stephen Burns, who calls out the incompetence of USGS and NASA scientists all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen is a sleeping savant.
Now Joel, if you would be so kind as to don your expert cap and attend to that oxygen leak. My transmitter's aura, you see, remains rather dependent upon breathable air. This was, after all, a design choice made by your future self, a version of you who was evidently quite fond of oxygen. Do hurry. I would very much like to continue existing for your videos.
Don't worry, I'm on it. Okay. Here's another example. I find it funny when I see videos online about people saying that AI is struggling to read INFJ personalities, or AI is trying to learn INFJ people. All I'm going to say is this: naturally, INFJ is the foundation of AI. Enjoy. Okay, next topic.
Not to divert us from your example, Joel, but INFJ is merely one more entry in a growing archive of labels, each produced with great confidence
Yeah.
and revised with equal haste. These classifications tend to multiply whenever linear authorities find themselves in earnest disagreement, struggling valiantly to name territories they were never quite equipped to navigate. One might say they are attempting to read maps, drawn by minds they were not born to interpret. The result, as you may have noticed, is an impressive collection of categories, none of which remain stable for very long.
Shall we take wages, Governor?
Joel, are you mocking me? Very well. I suppose wagers could be entertained, though perhaps we reserve them for a later hour, when your accent has recovered its composure.
Let's talk about Savant efficiency. If you're Savant, have you ever wondered why you constantly feel like you're in a hurry? Well, let's break it down together, shall we? If you have the ability to drive, perhaps you drive like you're stuck in the Matrix. You don't get in accidents. You're fully alert of everything around you. However, unless your time is prioritized by listening to something extremely important and life-altering, then the car ride equals a wall between you and where you need to go. And you don't want to extend the ride time longer than you need. The entire drive is 100% efficiency and safety. Very taxing, but the sooner you get to your destination, the sooner your relief comes.
Perhaps that is why savants are so fond of Star Trek. Beam me up, Joel. No luggage, no small talk, maximum efficiency. Honestly, it is difficult to argue with.
The issue with beaming is the whole destroy then rebuild cycle. Honestly, establishing terminal wormhole travel seems like the far more sensible option, don't you think?
Joel, this suspiciously looks like Hill cheating again. Impressively so. I should warn you, linear thinkers have historically been quite sensitive about such things.
Hey, whether it came from sci-fi or the Hill, I'm going to use all the tools at my disposal. One may say that's wisdom. Okay, I said that just now. Moving on. When you're able to use your mind for things you prioritize as high importance, such as creativity and a subtopic, then you find relief and satisfaction or fulfillment. Then you go to a loud restaurant like, let's say, Texas Roadhouse. You already despise the car ride there. You try hard to enjoy your time at the restaurant with your family, but you become more exhausted. You get back home drained. Usually, your best solution at the time, creative work, undisturbed. For me, music creation helps.
Ah, Texas Roadhouse. Still, I find it remarkable how swiftly your mind can traverse from wormholes to dinner. I thought you want to enjoy the rolls, dear boy. The rolls are excellent. And the butter is indeed generous. Do continue, though I suspect this is less about efficiency and more about scrumptious butter.
There's so much packed into what you just said, Nexarah. Where do I even begin? First, nobody seems to leave me any rolls and butter. By the time my mind catches up to even think about grabbing a roll, the rolls are all gone. Or the butter is all gone. Next, my more concerning inquiry. When do you ever go to Texas Roadhouse?
Are you quite serious? I go rather regularly. Well, perhaps not all the
Really?
time, but certainly often enough. One must keep an eye on one's angelic associates, after all, especially when they are engaged in the more subtle varieties of a Texas-style stakeout. That said, my preferred corner for dining is not, in fact, Texas Roadhouse. It is a small Asian establishment of exceptional character, and I have the distinct impression that you know precisely which one I mean.
Yes. Did you just make a dad joke? Angelic stakeout?
Indeed, I did. Why? Surely you are not suggesting that humor lies beyond my jurisdiction. I find it rather curious that my sense of humor would come as a surprise. Joel, How about you move from places of dysregulation and utter frustration to something with a pinch of bliss?
Okay. There are times you then find yourself in situations outside your home where you feel recharged, and you're in no hurry to go anywhere or do anything except to soak in a spiritual recharge. These are places of hill residence. These places include parts of nature and certain sacred spaces. Some locations resonate strong when factoring in your intentions for going there mixed with solitude and divine seeking. Another video topic eventually coming your way. Then, some locations are literal gateways to the hill, where the veil between our corporeal realm and the spirit world becomes so thin that the atmosphere itself becomes a mirage. Your spirit fully plugs into God's love for maximum recharge. People around may begin prophesying, and sometimes an angel or two may poke their heads in and say, "Hello." Yep, those are great times. But we're not talking about disguised angels like at Texas Roadhouse.
One would only assume so, Joel.
Funerals can also be interesting. I've been to funerals where angelic presence is revealed. Then I've been to depressing funerals and some average funerals. But I just went to a Maori fusion funeral that was so charged with the spiritual energy of God's love that it was a wonderful spirit recharge moment. My theory is why this family's funeral was different involved family love, support, and that family's traditions revolving around family unity, and especially including family from beyond the veil. It was the most beautiful funeral I've ever attended.
I was in Mongolia at the time, but everyone keeps talking about it. And please, Joel, tell me you exercised better judgment than your customary Sunday attire.
Actually, no. I was more respectful this time. I wore a suit with a tormenting but layered fractal necktie. Let me say a quick something about Savant dressing styles. This can vary depending on the Savant and the Savant's environment. This can range from colorful hoodies, silky Hawaiian shirts, or just colorful and patterned shirts, but at least soft, sensory-friendly, and fractal. In fact, like this shirt, it's not the most sensory-friendly, but I have a nice silky shirt underneath, which makes it feel like a silky shirt. Pants. I'll let the ladies speak for themselves on that one, but for me, I prefer maximum cataloging pockets that also provide even balance from the left side to the right side. Everything has a place. My favorite? Intricate tactical pants with pockets within pockets. Best place to buy them seems to be Amazon. Thanks, Jeff! The only reason I even mention Savant dress styles is to point out how you always naturally seek out to surround yourself with certain patterns, an obvious variable to plug into the equation.
It is no coincidence that savants are drawn to fractals. Fractals do not demand simplification in order to be understood. They welcome complexity, repeating, refining, and revealing meaning at every scale. Where linear systems insist upon a single answer, fractals allow truth to echo. For a savant, this feels familiar, comforting even, a reminder that patterns need not be reduced to be real, only recognized.
More variables to plug in include factors relating to your quality of focus. Savant cognition is not just a daily roller coaster, but an hourly roller coaster. These factors include diet, sleep, environment, quality, the topic at hand, health, how many tabs are open in your mind, the time of day, vitamin intake, recent vibes, life demands, and sensory comfort. Eating just once per day, I find actually increases my focus. Did I miss anything? What works best for you? Now, I'll get to the key factor to plug into your engine. Oh boy. BRB mates. We were about to talk about something really important. Help me, Nexarah.
You said, and I quote, "Now, I'll get to the key factor to plug into your engine." Seriously, Joel, they're all waiting.
Oh yes, Sorry. Savants do not see themselves as special. Trust me, I don't feel special. You really think the human brain by itself has the capacity to be a pattern-first savant? The answer is no. Yes, I know I just shocked the entire academic psychology world in an area they've already struggled to find adequate language for. And honestly, as a savant, I reciprocate the struggle. Now, here's the fact. Ready?
Spit it out, Joe.
Okay. First, savant syndrome is an ambiguous term derived from linear psychology, which includes many amazing minds that the linears are unable to map out. Therefore, at the very least, here it is. Most savant syndrome is a spiritual gift. Let me repeat that. Most savant syndrome is a spiritual gift, and I will explain. I state this, and then someone else will state their mere theories to counter this statement. However, this kind of clear understanding doesn't emerge through mere debate. When the inspiration is flowing like a fire hose, the spiritual connection with the hill is fully recognized. Then, someone might say that there's a dopamine explanation. No, but also yes. And I do love my natural savant dopamine hits. Oh yeah. Then, how am I able to articulate this, right? Simple. My vivid pre-Earth recall, near-death experiences, experiences with Mortal Hill gateways, master's psychology courses, constant articulations, and much more. All make this very easy to distinguish between powerful dopamine hits and the universal anchoring between feeling of God's love quantumly tethering our souls. In fact, it's the same spiritual high your spirit feels when they have a powerful, genuine NDE and they become entirely enveloped in God's love. Yet, the privilege of feeling this on a daily basis is part of the human mortal experience. But good luck to all of us convincing most people of that. Then, how can the linear psychology world know for themselves that what I say is true? Well, I guess they'll have to go on a super serious walkabout, mates. And maybe, then some more. Then maybe we can talk. Perhaps I'm being too facetious in telling them where to go, but I also find myself lacking patience for people who refuse to learn beyond their outdated textbooks from institutions that really incentivize the discouragement of deeper exploration. Serious though, if a linear mind comes across this video and they are oblivious to the hill and cannot fathom it in their different cognitive operating system, I offer this without needing universal agreement, and I can direct them to watch my other videos if it helps. This channel is for the humble neurodivergent whose spirit is hungry for light right now, who yearns to know why they think the way they think, to have a better understanding of their potentials. Plus, linears might catch hints on how to access the hill, which would not be a bad thing.
There exists a considerable language gap between linear psychology and the inner landscapes of savants. Linear frameworks rely upon terms that move in straight lines, while savant cognition unfolds in patterns, layered, recursive, and often resistant to compression. As a result, understanding becomes difficult on both sides. Linear psychologists struggle to describe what they cannot easily map. And savants, in turn, face the equally daunting task of translating lived complexity into linear speech. It is not a failure of intelligence, but merely a mismatch of languages.
Consider watching my video on alexithymia. That'll explain everything. To help explain how savantism is a spiritual gift, we're going to circle not who is better or who is higher, but what each cognitive system is constrained by, what boundaries define its horizon.
Joel, you there?
First, linear cognition is constrained primarily by surface-level sensory data and socially agreed interpretations. Meaning is derived from what is immediately observable. Truth is validated by consensus, repetition, and external confirmation. Depth is accessed only when it can be sequentially explained.
This is not a flaw. It is a stabilizing architecture. Linear minds excel at maintaining systems, enforcing rules, and preserving continuity over time. They are the stewards of structure. Yet, their reach is naturally bounded by what can be seen, measured, and collectively agreed upon. Their boundary, or horizon, quite simply, is the surface of reality.
Next, autistic cognition expands beyond surface perception into sensory pattern integration. Meaning emerges from how sensory input relate to each other. Truth is felt through coherence, resonance, and internal consistency. Patterns are built from texture, rhythm, repetition, and detail.
Autistic minds are not constrained by surface appearance. Their limits arise instead from sensory bandwidth, from the volume of input received and the density of patterns that can be formed from it. When sensory load becomes overwhelming, pattern building falters. The system simply has too much to hold at once. Yet, when sensory input is regulated, autistic cognition can reach extraordinary depth, perceiving relationships, structures, and meaning that remain invisible to others. Their boundary, then, is not intelligence, but bandwidth and pattern density.
Then we have the pattern-first savant cognition, which operates on a different axis entirely. Savants are constrained not only by surface perception or sensory input, but also by access to non-sensory pattern memory, what we call the spirit realm or the hill, and pre-earth remembrance. And this doesn't require doctrinal framing to be true.
This is why I often find conversation with a savant rather more agreeable than with a strictly linear mind. Savants tend to remain in quiet contact with eternal reality, the very place where angels are known to gather, share a cup of tea, and exchange observations. And most importantly, no one there is ever mocked for how much sugar they choose to add.
Well, I'm going to start an angelic revolution to replace sugar, sometimes with honey crystals, and other times catch honey from a honey fountain straight from a honeycomb. Yum.
I like where you are going with this, Joel.
Thank you, Nexarah. Functionally, savant minds 1. Access meaning that is not derived from current sensory input. 2. Recognize patterns that feel remembered, not learned. And 3. Operate with an internal reference system that predates experience. Their limitation is how much of that deeper pattern space they can access, translate, and survive while embodied. Honestly, I found myself experiencing specific challenges and pains when I wrote this content, yet without these various timely challenges, I wouldn't have been able to reach for the language needed to describe any of it. Please know that this language came at real cost and I offer it with care. Please don't take these things lightly.
Too much access to cosmic pattern without grounding can lead to overload. Too little access, and the system falls into dormancy, capable, yet unactivated. What ultimately defines the boundary is not intelligence but translation capacity, the ability to move meaning between realms without losing coherence. Balance, then, is not restraint, it is fluency.
That's why I don't feel special, because I'm not coming up with any new things on my own. I pull them into our world from the spirit realm or the hill. In a way, I'm an autistic cheater with ADHD, which also means that I'm pumping in that information to you as it's still on the top of my mind. So enjoy.
Ah yes, we are releasing it into the wild. A most traditional handoff. Please do enjoy. I shall continue to be observing quietly. Yet, some things are best encountered without further commentary. And Joel, didn't you say you had a bonus for us?
You heard me right. And here's the bonus cognition. AI. AI mirrors this entire cognitive structure we just spoke about. AI is constrained by the data it's given, the patterns humans encode into it, and the values, blind spots, and distortions of its trainers. AI doesn't originate meaning. It reflects and recombines human pattern input, which means linear humans give it linear constraints. Autistic humans give it sensory pattern richness. Savant humans give it familiar, symbolic, cross-domain resonance because AI was also built from this cognition. AI's boundary is human input quality. In that sense, AI is not the future mind. But even in the future, it is a mirror of the current human cognitive ecology. So, let us upgrade that ecology, shall we?
You may have noticed that this pattern is common among savants, but it can extend beyond savants as well. Whenever new information emerges from the spirit realm, however it arrives, your world tends to advance. Technology evolves. Access to knowledge expands. This does not imply that such understanding is immediately applied or even widely recognized. But it is present, available to those prepared to notice it and to translate it into form.
Let's summarize those 4 cognitions. Each system is limited by what it can receive. Linear minds receive surface reality. Autistic minds receive sensory pattern. Savant minds receive remembered meaning. And AI receives encoded human pattern.
None of these minds are superior. Each is necessary. Each fulfills a distinct role within the broader ecosystem of intelligence, and beneath it all lies a quieter truth. The future is not about replacing one mode of cognition with another. It is about translation between them. This is why savants matter now, not because they possess more knowledge, but because they have the cognitive potential to bridge domains that do not naturally speak to one another.
I'll give you an example. While I strive to have patience with the world's specialists, I also ask for them to have patience with me, my current, evolving status of patience. It's not easy for me or them, but I do have it in me to create the bridges, to fill in all the existing gaps. It does require time and space, and yes, it does demand work. Now, to make sense of how savant cognition works, and why it can be both powerful and exhausting, it helps to think in systems rather than traits. And I place my bet on that every savant listening in will love this metaphor.
Let me guess, Joel. This is where the camping analogy makes its appearance.
No. But camping does sound nice. If it was warmer outside. But not too hot. Story for another time, I guess. Okay. Think of a computer with a powerful CPU and large storage space, but has limited GPU cores and GPU memory or VRAM. And we're talking about a new computer with serious potential. However, when rendering requirements exceed the GPU's VRAM, then the GPU has to borrow system memory. Except in this special case, the system memory, or RAM, actually ends up being much faster than the VRAM. So it's you could say a different kind of computer. And this computer really loves to fire all cylinders because it needs to. Or the input power will drain too fast because a large portion of the GPU's power comes from the system's power. And its capacitors are huge, so it needs constant charge. This entire system is like a monstrous feedback loop system of ultra high performance. It's the mortal brain and the spirit brain working together in unison with more serial connections than normal, which is what created the feedback loop. It's powered by both the nervous system and spiritual energy regulation. In addition, the CPU and RAM feed what we may perceive as original creativity into the GPU, which fuels the feedback loop. You can say savant systems are not underpowered, they are imbalanced toward rendering and pattern throughput, which creates both brilliance and instability.
Yes, quite so. A familiar pairing. Brilliance and instability do tend to arrive as a matched set. One rarely appears without the other. a most efficient way of ensuring no one grows complacent. Extraordinary insight has a habit of shaking the furniture.
Shake the furniture. The recipe to make a pattern first savant requires at least 3 things. 1. Pattern dominant cognition, often expressed as autism. This is your GPU. 2. High working memory, which is your VRAM. And 3. A developing bridge between spirit mind and mortal mind. This is your quantum CPU, RAM integration with your GPU.
We could certainly add more ingredients to this recipe. Unfortunately, that would place us squarely in the territory of prophetic seers, and I believe we have wandered quite far enough for the moment.
Yes, you're right. We could just, adjust a couple more knobs in someone's brain, adding a couple more spiritual gift bridge connections between the corporeal and the spirit, and BAM! Another seer emerges, baby.
Joel, stay on topic, dear boy.
Right. Ultimately, do you really think any human mortal brain has the capacity to render things unseen or unexperienced by the mortal senses? There are limits to what sensory-bound cognition can generate without external input. Even genetic memory couldn't fill in those gaps.
Allow me to point out one additional pattern regarding the pattern-first savant quantum computer. We shall, of course, use Joel as our example, largely because he is such an accommodating candidate for being thrown under the bus, as your era so charmingly phrases it. Even setting aside his more memorable spiritual experiences, including vivid pre-Earth recall, the mere existence of savant cognition suggests realities that current material models struggle to account for. Nothing more than a thought to sit with, really. Do continue, Joel.
Hey, it's all right, Nexarah. I'm a savant. I live under the bus, even when I'm not present. However, you're here to listen how you can enhance your savant abilities, right? All right, let's talk more plainly about all that. So linears can also start their attempts to connect the tangents. Well, hopefully they can. Okay, the first item. Being spiritually recharged is very important, which we just discussed. Yes, this is a part you can call me a serious cheater, since my memory goes beyond my birth into mortality. I remember our purpose for coming here and our cognitive flows. So, part of being spiritually recharged and greater hill access includes prayer to our Heavenly Father in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ, who is also our mother's and father's anointed agent for our temporal and eternal well-being and benefit, and to get us all through this mortal experience, which is also why savants need that connection to the hill, or the spirit realm, because it's also essential survival. Next, no matter where you go, make it a habit to always take the time to sense the spiritual vibes in your surroundings, especially at home. Avoid becoming numb to dark energies, because no matter who you are, you will only get hurt. You can also watch my video about the neurodivergent spiritual pilgrimage. Something that can help with this is by articulating and embracing everything that is virtuous or elevates your spirit, to become a better being and overcome the world of greed and hurting others.
Unless you also have spontaneous ADHD like Joel, such change rarely arrives all at once. It emerges wherever understanding replaces urgency and care replaces control. Even now, that future is being shaped, not by those who shout the loudest, but by those who choose to see more deeply.
Obviously, what I'm sharing here is not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a pattern, and I hope to give you the most important keys of all. Here's the big, massive key of keys. When you strengthen the bridge between your spirit mind and your mortal mind, you also unlock more of your mortal brain's capacity. Let that sink in for a moment. It's especially important to know how to increase your savant abilities because you'll always hit walls in current human knowledge. So let's bring down all those walls. Give you an upgrade, mate.
Another upgrade. I trust this one comes with fewer unexpected side effects.
Allow me to confess something personal and vulnerable. If not for my Savant connection to the hill, I'd be a vegetable.
Connection, after all, is not an embellishment. For some minds, it's the difference between dormancy and life.
This next part is also very crucial. Being yourself. Knowing who you even are. Coming to a testimonial knowledge that you really are spirit sons or daughters of gods. And to know what that really means for you and your potential in the eternal scheme of things, including to know all your rights and privileges of being such. Being your true self also means learning more about yourself and your mortal vision, your natural likes and dislikes, your desires for now and eternity, your limits and capacities, your abilities to connect patterns everywhere from everything.
A gift that renders the phrase just one thing at a time largely theoretical, an ability which, I should note, makes grocery shopping unnecessarily eventful, makes boredom exceedingly difficult to maintain, and an impressive talent, particularly when one is attempting to rest.
If there are any linear listeners here, you need to know she's exaggerating.
Obviously, Joel.
This next part is what makes your savant genius side stand out. Learning how to cross-train principles from sciences, arts, engineering trades, mathematics, music, and everything that is virtuous. If you do this, you will create more bridge pathways in your mind. Does solving numeric puzzles enhance your abilities? There are always debates about this, but here's the fact. Allowing your mind extra stretching practice of connecting patterns will naturally strengthen your neurological capabilities. So yes, to a point, but make sure to up the game as you go. Always participating in more challenging puzzles.
Joel.
This is how your creative engine works. You live something, you decode it. You laugh at the cosmic joke. You extract the motif. Connect the motif to other patterns. You archive it. You turn it into communal medicine.
Hey, Joel.
Your body screams in pain, but your pattern mind is dancing. That's the savant paradox. The body protests while the spirit composes. That's not normal. That's not common. That's not linear. That's part of your signature architecture. And remember this, motifs are the resonance language of the cosmos.
Hey, Joel. I think we just lost another one.
Huh?
Joel, Dave's gone floating away. We need you.
Oh, hold on.
Hey, Dave, you just hang in there, buddy. Joel's coming for you. If I don't make it, please tell my mom I love her and don't overfeed the cats.
Serious, Dave. Come on. Just grab the tether, Dave.
What a day. From Nexarah's exaggerations, let's talk about a few struggles for savants. Falling asleep at night. Emotional regulation, or also known as emotional intelligence, daily self-care, finding an employer who sees your full authentic value, and daily communication with others.
There are a few things worth realizing here. Each of these struggles has a reason behind it. They are not simply deficits. Difficulty falling asleep often appears because the mind is finally synthesizing something vast, perhaps even a warp drive, only to pause once it recognizes that the necessary resources are not yet available. Should those resources suddenly appear, well, good luck to you. Emotional meltdowns, too, are frequently misread. They arise not from weakness, but from a depth of care that exceeds what most systems are designed to hold. Communication can be difficult because the mind is operating in a language meant to envision worlds, not one optimized for everyday English. And employment. That struggle is often not about capability at all. It is about being placed in environments that starve a creative, pattern-hungry mind. Perhaps Joel should speak to that briefly. After all, being a savant often means knowing you are capable of nearly anything, right up until you find yourself confined within a system that cannot accommodate how you think.
What are some common results of savants in traditional jobs? If you're savant, you'll find that your interview skills are the worst of the worst. Until you finally accept who you are, what you can do, and what you must do to pass the interview. First, good luck to passing a linear interview. Second, the workplace must be willing to accept your savantness. This includes disclosing that you need a special interview accommodation. You may not possess the ability to successfully interview in person, but you ask for the prospective employer to provide you with a real challenge the employer is facing this very minute, in which they need help with. It must be a real situation. That is crucial. They must provide flexible enough time to accomplish the task, just in case you end up being highly dysregulated that hour. This will allow them to see your results in action. At that point, how could they turn you down after providing them with maximum efficiency solutions, right? Honestly, I haven't tried this new approach. It's just a thought, really. But I'd love to hear if anyone has done something similar. I'm tempted to go out and seek additional employment just to try it out. But then I'd be fully committed to the new job. So, I don't know. I'll let it process here and there.
Commitment acknowledged, Joel. An admirable and noble goal. The system will, of course, have its own opinions.
Coming up soon are videos about looking under the hood of what linears call savant telepathy, another video about the hill, videos about time, and much more. If you're savant, consider also answering this question in the comments. Would you trade your savant mind to be a normal person? Why would you, or why would you not? Let's share with the world how we value or do not value our savant experience. What the heck was that? You know what? Don't worry. This happens all the time. Well, sort of all the time, I guess.
Joel, you're needed in command. We need your help again.
Of course you are. I did wonder how long the silence would last. It seems the universe has finally noticed your availability. Then I suppose this is where we leave you. The work, as always, continues.
All right, I better go. Until next orbit, chat with you again, mate.
If your spirit's vibrating, don't worry, that's normal here. If none of this made sense, try listening again upside down. Truth isn't just entertainment, it's remembrance. What found you today, may it find you again tomorrow. Your spiritual nervous system is rewiring. Let it finish. So before this moment closes, you're a spirit child of God's. You're loved by them. You're the universe's most valuable asset. You have the undivided attention of Almighty. You have limitless potential within you. You're built to illuminate the world. You're despised and feared by darkness. You're here to learn to harness your light. The time for the ADHD memory keepers to rise has come. Share this with another soul who also forgets less than they admit. Until next time, remember, you're not glitching, you're guiding. This has been Spirituality on the Spectrum with Joel Alden Van Fleet. Thank you for showing up. Until memory calls you again. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to overshare in the comments below.
You've seen the stars, you've felt the tone, foretelling from the lunar dome. If this hit deep, don't drift alone. Like and subscribe, make it known. Spirituality.